Brian, you had said the other day when you were waiting for more news on Gerrit Cole that you were prepared for the worst. What was your initial reaction when you heard that it was indeed worst case scenario and that he was going to require Tommy John surgery?
When he left here in Tampa, I fully expected Tommy John was coming. He went through a very successful rehab, as we all know, last year, but to have the episode to repeat itself and facing the similar type downtime, and with all the information that Chris Ahmad had provided me and our medical team, on the ground here, the trainers and our field staff, it just felt like this is going to need more of an intervention than just a rehab. This is going to need more likely this Tommy John surgery. So at that point, I was prepared for the worst. A little slight hope maybe El-Traj would come in with a different recommendation, but that wasn't the case.
Given the rehab last year and the injury last year, was it in the back of your mind that this could be something that you'd eventually have to deal with Gerrit Cole?
Well, every pitcher is one pitch away. So I think ultimately when you get enough distance between episodes of any issue, any injury, I thought last year we had a successful recovery from his episode last March, and he pitched extremely well in the second half, including the postseason all the way to the World Series where he had that terrific start against the Dodgers at Yankee Stadium where he closed that out with his last start, unfortunately for us. And then so you start to forget a little bit about, the longer you go, the less of no complaints and good performance, you start forgetting about, things that have happened in the past. It's always in the back of your mind, regardless for any pitcher, because, as I said, you're one pitch away from having your whole landscape changed. And that obviously occurred here in his last outing against the Minnesota Twins here at Legends Field or Steinbrenner Field.
There are innovations in how they've been doing Tommy Johns over the years, depending on the situation with the individual. Is it your understanding that it's just a straight Tommy John, or is there consideration of doing that internal brace procedure?
I think it's possible. Either one, we won't know until after the surgery is finished off and we get a report from Dr. El-Traj, who I'm sure has got a busy schedule today, but he was going to be one of the first this morning to be done. And then once we get the reports about an internal brace is possible, straight Tommy John's possible. I think it just depends on what he sees when he's in there.
It's not just Gerrit Cole, obviously former Cy Young winner, huge blow, ace of your staff, but also Luis Gil. How do you piece it together now moving forward?
No, that's the job. I mean, you certainly hope you can avoid injuries, but injuries are also part of this, and that's why, again, like Carrasco's a non-roster invite. He's an example of many players you try to invite to camp. I think we had a little bit more difficulty this winter trying to get people to come because we looked like we were so deep starting rotation-wise, so they non-roster invites were looking for opportunities, so they would no, I don't see how I can crack that staff. Well, I think if they had a chance to redo it, they'd look at our situation now and be like, oh, we're all in. So we'll evaluate, again, what we have here. Warren's pitched extremely well so far. Obviously, Carrasco's pitched extremely well so far. We'll also evaluate what's available outside of camp. But losing, obviously, Cole, losing Brubaker with the two fractured ribs. Hampton was, a depth piece that obviously was a chest piece moved off the board last year for injuries, and then the elbow reoccurred this year. So now he's down with Tommy John. So our starting rotation depth is definitely taking a hit.
Look, just 2.5 weeks about until the season begins. How difficult is it at this point in time to try to pursue something outside? And you look at perhaps the prospects involved or a financial commitment that could be involved. You look at the financial commitment. Will that at all be an issue in evaluating?
Well, first time of year is definitely more problematic. Usually not until after the draft is when things start to really open up, where you have a much larger inventory you potentially could access outside the organization. So when from a general manager's chair, you're always hopeful that you can avoid injury bugs to any aspect of your roster. You want to avoid them, obviously, February, March, April, May, because, again, going to marketplaces is more difficult. But again, there's non-roster invites that might not make the clubs. There's waiver claims. There's a lot of different other ways to do it, and so we've gone through those processes before. Hopefully we can run into some good things that could help us, and if not, we'll rely on what we have.
If you have to rely on what you have, what are those conversations like as time goes on and you're trying to decide who's the best fit for the fifth starter spot? What's the criteria you guys go through to make that decision?
Listen, I mean, it's no different. Although some significant important chess pieces might be off the board, we're still going to try to take our best team forward as we get, start March 27th in New York against the Brewers. So we're looking forward to whoever can give us the best chance to win on a consistent basis, whether it's in the rotation, the bullpen, or obviously on the position player side. So anything that we have and we possess that that we think is going to help us, that's what we're going to go with.